Reiki heals the body, astrology maps the stars, and tarot speaks through symbols. What if all three are different languages of the same truth? Today we're diving into the tools of the mystic with our special guest, Allyson Perry-Turner, my wife, and of course, as always, Justin Gates.
Not his wife.
This is the new Ashla Podcast. Hello and welcome to the new Ashla Podcast. Today we are diving into something a little off our normal streak. We're diving into the tools of the mystic. Now, this is a fascinating topic because you see this gaining more and more popularity in the world, from astrology, I know you've all checked your sign at least at some point, to tarot cards, and even Reiki starting to get more and more momentum. So
I don't think this is off the beaten path for us. I teach mysticism, dude. That's what I taught you.
I'll give you that, but how often we dive into mysticism on this podcast?
Well, because we try to bring it down to earth, ground it, make it practical. That doesn't make it better than any other kinds of mysticism, but it makes it more reachable for people and less scary. And today, I think we're really gonna, bring these tools, kind of ground them too, so people can get something out of them because they're useful and powerful.
Mm-hmm.
So
that's like, I always dabbled in tarot as something I found fascinating, but I never got a chance to really explore it until I finally was willing to take those steps. I'd watch the YouTube videos. I would always have my ear out when I heard about it, but it's nothing I ever jumped into.
How come? That's an interesting point. I think a lot of people are where you're talking about. Why is that? What was stopping you?
Religion. It was always that whole don't ask God to predict the future, because it was so controversial.
Yeah. What do you think, Allyson? Why do you think people are roadblocked from using these tools of divination?
No, I think Michael's exactly right that it's a lot of religion has kind of taught people like this is evil, especially in tarot when you have cards like the devil. That has a lot of associations that scare people until they're willing to learn that that's not what that means.
Yeah. Michael and I were talking about, how in this spooky season, these episodes, we're trying to demystify a lot of this ugly language or the ugliness that people put on words like witches and ritual and things like that. Because really, when you take your average witch, most of them are pretty normal people, and the spells aren't scary and the incantations aren't scary. They're really just a lot of normal things these people are trying to do, and they do. So, yeah, I think you guys are right. It is a lot of the really heavy religious dogma that says everything is witchcraft and everything is the devil. Mm-hmm. And of course, we don't roll that way here, right? We like to use things as tools, and we like to be wise and use our intuition in these things. As we'll get into it today, I think we'll see that anybody can use these tools. You don't have to be a wizard. You don't have to be a witch or a mystic, because really in lots of parts of your life, you probably already are some of those things. In one way or the other, we just, Hollywood likes to make everything scary and crazy, and people eat that up.
And superstition, man, it just,
yeah.
When you got stuff circling around like in the churches, like it's easy to have that type of relationship with it when you're told your whole life it's evil or bad. But what was the original sin? The knowledge of good and evil. This is Allyson Perry-Turner, my wife. You can find her over at the Unstitched Muse. I tell you what, every week she's pushing out these newsletters that are just, she mixes astrology and tarot, and the pictures she paints are so vivid, and they always resonate. Whenever I share her, what would you call them? Newsletter, I guess you could say, with anybody, they read it and they get so much from it, and it's just like, we've wanted to bring you on here for so long because you do such powerful messages in the work you're doing, and now you're expanding. You're starting to get into doing tarot readings professionally, and I think you would be better explaining the work you do better than I could, the way you have such an artistic way of explaining things.
Yeah. I think first and foremost, I'm a poet. I'm an artist, I'm a poet, and that's the foundation of my interest in words. I'm interested in stories, and that's what tarot and astrology are. They tell stories. The cards you pull in a reading tell a different story. way you interpret a chart, whether it's a birth chart or looking at a specific date. I ran an astrology chart for our wedding day, and it tells a story, and you could focus on different things, it's like reading a poem over and over again. Every time you look at it, you're going to get something different out of it, and you're going to have a different lens because every time you're going to be a different person. So even if I look at my birth chart over and over and over again, I'm always a different person looking at it. So a lot of my work started with tarot. I'm also interested in archetypes and things like that. So it started with, I don't like to use tarot as divination. I'm not going to tell you when you're going to get married, what your next job is going to be, where you're going to move. Like, it just doesn't resonate with me. I know there are some people that like to do that. That's just not my style. And maybe it's because I like having the freedom to choose my own future.
Yeah.
And so it became tarot as just a way of asking better questions about myself and about my life. And not, oh, am I gonna get that raise? Am I gonna get that job? Is that person gonna call me back? But more like, who do I need to become to get that job that I want? Who do I need to become to attract my ideal partner? What lessons am I still learning? And I've also always been interested. You'll learn this about me. I'm interested in everything. It's a blessing and a curse. I'm a Gemini sun, so I'm interested in everything, but just interested in asking good questions because I think curiosity can drive so much in this world. And I think curiosity is one thing that I find lacking a lot. And my favorite people are always the most curious, just about everything.
You're a natural born philosopher.
Well, not only do you dive into tarot and astrology, but you also do Reiki, right? Like, and the way you bring these modalities together.
Yeah, I don't like to just kind of pick and choose things. I am unfortunately a jack of all trades. Again, blessing and a curse. But I was getting into tarot and I was like, oh, this is amazing. And then I got drawn into astrology and Reiki at different times. And my mind just always wants to weave things together to say, oh, but how can I do all of this at the same time? And I've done this in so many areas of my life where I'm like, oh, but I'm interested in this and this and this. How can I combine them together to make something new or to use them to enhance each other? And I think it's because, as we're talking about, I saw that all of these modalities are getting at the same thing. And for me, it's getting at the fact that our bodies and our spirits know what we want. They know how to help heal us. And sometimes we have to get out of our own way and use other tools to figure that out.
So let's get right into Reiki then.
Yeah.
Because that's where, how did Reiki first come into your life? Was there something that drew you to it, or just in your infinite curiosity, you just kind of seen something and said, hey, I want to see that. I want to know about that.
Yeah. I have an aunt who was learning Reiki quite a number of years ago, and I just kind of heard about it from her. It was just kind of like implanted in my brain as, oh, that's a thing. And I once heard she compared it to the religion that I grew up in has what is called the priesthood power, which is the power of God used in healing blessings, protection blessings, things like that. In that religion,
like the laying of hands, right?
Yeah, exactly, a laying on of hands.
Yep.
In that religion, it is wielded only by men. But my aunt, who,
Bummer.
yeah, it's a whole mess. But my aunt was learning Reiki, and I think she was talking to my mom about this, and she said, it's like the priesthood. It's that laying on of hands to channel energy. And my brain exploded a little bit, and I went, oh, that's amazing. And so years later, in grad school, I had my first Reiki session with my Reiki master, actually. She's lovely. And I was just like, oh, this is amazing. And she and I talked beforehand, and I already knew, like, I had intuitive gifts. I've had, a lot of weird stuff happen that you can't explain otherwise. And she and I were talking, and the more I talked, the more I was like, I got a lot going on. And I think it was my second session. She said, do you want to learn Reiki? And I said, yeah, I want to learn everything. Sign me up. And I've really enjoyed it. I practice a lot on Michael. That's one of the benefits of being married to me. free energy work
It
all the
keeps me
time.
going, I tell you what.
But yeah, I just think it's a really beautiful practice working with energy, and it's helped me get in tune more with my own body and my own kind of energetic everything as well.
For someone who's just going into Reiki, I mean, what all is a Reiki session? When someone were to sign up for it, what all would be the procedure in which they would go through? What do you do for them?
Yeah. I know y'all have talked about Reiki before, so I would recommend people listen to that episode as well. But in a Reiki session, I mean, we start by chatting. We start kind of asking questions about where you are, what you're going through, what you're looking for. And then it's a light or no touch. It can be done at a distance. So right now I do it virtually, so no touch. But just kind of working with the energy field, moving through the both the seven traditional chakras and some of the kind of extended chakras to just kind of see like what's going on. And really, it's not that I'm doing anything, it's that I'm a channel for energy that can remind the body that it knows how to heal itself. So I'm not the healer, you heal yourself in a Reiki session. I just get to help you do that.
That is very interesting because that's exactly what Brenda said too. She's not the healer; she is the channel. I find that really interesting because a lot of people. I mean, it is exactly like the laying of hands that we hear about. Ironically, in Reiki, I've had religious people tell me that Reiki was witchcraft, and I'm like, this is literally the thing that you do.
Yeah.
And actually, in broad Christianity, the laying of hands, well, especially to the Roman Catholics, the laying of hands is an unbroken thing for like 2,000 something years. Like literally laying, Christ laid hands on the apostles, and the apostles laid hands on and then forever and ever. So it's not witchcraft. It's literally the same thing.
Yeah, in my Reiki
One may be a little
training,
older than the other.
yeah.
Huh?
In my Reiki training, our teacher kind of said that it's often theorized that that is how Christ performed his miracles and the Buddha.
Right. Yeah, I mean, if you believe the historical context of the Bible, Christ, there's even times where Christ did it at a distance, just like Reiki.
Yep.
So, which I find fascinating because it's like, no, again, these are tools that human beings have access to, regardless of who you believe in or what avatar you put in place of as your god or whatever. I mean, it's just, this stuff isn't about religion. It's about practical, spiritual, energetic tools that everybody can use. And everybody, can you imagine if everybody in school took Reiki 101? I mean, how cool would that be? Or if everybody took, all these different kinds of tools that we use that people are scared of, it would be a much different world.
My Reiki master actually teaches Reiki at one of our local community colleges, which I think is really amazing. She's had students who you can do Reiki on animals too. I've done some work when our cat was really sick. I was helping her out a little bit, and she once had a student who just wanted to do Reiki on animals, and I was like, that's cool.
Yeah.
I've never told this story. Michael's never even heard this story, and I've never told it on any of the shows that I did before with the KOA or anything. But when I was younger, 17, 18, not quite 18, I was like 17 years old. I went to the fair, a county fair, and I talked to a medium. And they were the whole get up, and it was like the very stereotypical thing you see on TV, with the crystal ball and all that, right? And I thought it'd be fun. But I was also, well, I still am, super curious person. And it's interesting how every family has that aunt that introduces us to stuff that's outside of the stuff we're supposed to be doing. My aunt and my grandmother, although my grandmother was a practicing Catholic, on the side she had all these cool books and things like that. Anyway, so I went to this seer, this medium, and they told me that I was I was meant to heal and I was meant to do this kind of work. And back then I was still coming into myself. Of course, I'm 17 years old. You don't know shit at 17 years old. Nobody does. We think we do until we get to about 30, and then we go, oh, I guess I didn't know anything. So anyways, I had this friend named Alan, and Alan had this cat that was literally dying and sick. I mean, this thing wouldn't move, it wouldn't drink, wouldn't eat, things that animals do before they pass away. And they all kind of do this thing, and then they try to escape, but this thing couldn't even move. Miss Camp. So, I thought about that lady at the fair, and I really didn't know much about laying of the hands or Reiki or any of that stuff, except there was a short chapter in a book that kind of got me kickstarted into all of this, my whole path, my whole life, and it was called a book called Instant ESP by David St. Clair, and it was a book. Basically, this guy used to go on and do what we'd call seminars and stuff now, where they go and he put all this stuff in a book, all his teachings. And there was one little tiny chapter, I mean like maybe 7 pages, about energy healing. And I could recite that book back and forth, front cover to back cover. I'd read it so many times. And I was like, you know what, I'm going to try that. And it was the first time that I really seen like the laying of hands actually work. And it was this cat, and I went and scooped the cat up and put him in my lap. And, I did all the stuff that the book was telling me to do. And the cat got up, scratched the hell out of my leg, right, like violently scratched me. And I was like, what the hell, man? I'm just trying to help you. And jumped down and went and started eating and drinking. And that cat did that. Yeah, that cat was alive for another 2 or 3 weeks. He did finally pass away because he had a really bad problem. But that was like, oh my God, this is unbelievable.
That's
like,
beautiful.
You can lay your hands. You can lay your hands and do your thing and heal things and heal people and heal. Reiki's, I just never found the time to learn it, which is really strange. But as you guys know, you guys both know me, I give myself a lot of stuff to do already. So it's probably my own fault that I don't have time to learn that stuff. But I mean, I've seen it firsthand, and I see it all the time. What's one, give us a powerful story or a story like where your Reiki, even for yourself or someone else that you helped, was like that, oh my God type thing.
Yeah, I attribute energy work largely to my own healing. I was experiencing for years a chronic pain everywhere. Got a number of diagnoses, got a number of non-diagnoses, ran a lot of tests for doctors to be like, everything's coming up normal. It was very fun. I used a cane to walk, sometimes used a wheelchair when the pain was really bad.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. And yeah, I'd kind of resigned myself to, well, this is the rest of my life. I'll just make the most of it. And then found energy work and shadow work and a lot of this. But I attribute, energetic medicine to my healing. And I don't have chronic pain anymore.
When it was
I don't,
And that,
none of that.
hearing you say that blows my mind, because I've known you for a while now, and I would never know. I would never know that you were that debilitated. That's crazy. That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, when we first started dating, we would go to the museum or the zoo, and I'd push her around, and it was. But she is just like, her healing journey has been so profound. I remember last year we climbed a mountain together, and I got to the top, and I'm like, look at you, look at where you've come.
Mm-hmm.
That blows my mind.
Yeah.
That is powerful. Wow.
Yeah. I went to the doctor this year, and they were like,
my reaction probably, people who don't know you were like, oh, that's a really cool story. But I'm telling you, my mind is blown, because we've been places together. Like we spent what, like 6 or 7 hours walking around at the Ren Fair.
Yeah.
That's not easy walking.
That was my first year making it at the Ren Fair the whole day.
That is so awesome. That is so awesome.
So yeah, it's
Well, it's like, this
powerful.
goes to show, it's one of the things we talk on here is like, when you do this work, this healing work, ailments vanish, illness vanishes as you do this inner work. Not always, but it's crazy how consistent it is for major illnesses and issues going on with the body to get resolved. I know for me, it's like, I've had hypertension stage 2 since I was a teenager. And I know that's attributed to my anxiety and all the stuff I was repressing, and working through this. My heart rate's become normal. My blood pressure is getting better. It's fascinating, the core of the mind-body connection there. So we talked a bit about Reiki. How about astrology? So what attracted you to astrology originally?
Ooh, that's a good question. I don't know that I can name a specific instance. It was just kind of around, you're on the internet, you see, your sun sign, whatever. And of course, I'm curious and can't just learn about things surface level. So over time, I've gotten into, I look at my own birth chart and then I was overwhelmed because it's a lot of symbols and stuff. And at first you're like, whoa, what is this? And as I got into kind of my, what I term alternative spirituality circles, where we do all that fun stuff, I started learning about it more and I started on social media following some really beautiful, powerful astrologers and just learning about it. I have a friend who does pretty much all of my astrology readings and just gives me wonderful, wonderful insights. And the more I learn about it, the more I'm interested and the more I want to learn and the more I discover about myself. Um, and the more I realize that pop astrology with its what's your sun sign is so annoyingly surface level and incorrect. Again, as
Right.
Gemini, always mischaracterized, and I'm sure my Scorpios understand that.
Oh yeah. It's funny you talk about it being this surface level thing, and it really is. Like if you've never seen a birth, just a basic birth chart, there's tons and tons and tons of stuff in there,
Hmm.
and that's not even like getting deep into it. That's just like barely scratching beyond the surface. And it's funny because a lot of people see it as this fortune teller tool, and it's really not. It's not. At least for me, it doesn't seem like it's about predicting that future. It's about seeing the blueprint of us from before birth, life, and then after that.
Hmm.
Because it's really like an imprint of. It's really like it's like a way that our souls are imprinted with this symbolic map of energy, right?
Yeah, I think astrology scares and irritates people sometimes because they think, oh, if my birth chart is right, then my identity is set in stone, that I have to be this way forever.
Right.
No, there are going to be kind of immutable parts of ourselves that are the same throughout our lives, but I don't like to look at it as a trap. I like to look at it as
Mm.
kind of, I call it a compass on your journey, that it lets you kind of figure out how to orient yourself in the world. If you could figure out how you tend to present to others, how your anger manifests, where you are naturally drawn to learning, all those things, you can then take that information and grow from there and do as you please. And your
Mhm.
astrology is always changing because it's not just your birth chart, it's how your birth chart is interacting with how the planets currently are.
Mm.
So,
Right.
you know, when we enter Scorpio season, when the sun enters Scorpio, y'all might be feeling something a little more intensely than when the sun is in Taurus or Aries,
Hmm.
or when the moon is in the same sign that it was when you were born. Your emotions
Mm.
might be doing something a little extra different. One thing that's big in astrology is what's known as the Saturn return, which happens every 29, 30 years. So usually one's first Saturn return happens between when you're 28 and 30. And Saturn goes back to the same place that it was when you were born. And that's kind of a time where you're learning structure again a little bit. Saturn teaches us time and structure and discipline, which scares a lot of people. But if you lean into it and know what's happening, it can be a time where you kind of um, rethink what you're doing with your life, have, a pre-midlife crisis, if you will. And so it's not just, oh, when you were born, but it's also how that
Hmm.
interacts with everything else that's happening around you and who you are becoming.
Because a lot of people focus on the sun and the moon only, right? But there are
Hmm.
other bodies of floating rocks out there that are important, right?
Rocks and gas. You have a Jupiter
Yeah.
sign. You have a Pluto sign. Once you get into the bigger planets that move more slowly, they're known as generational signs, where it'll be
Hmm.
essentially a whole generation has the same like Pluto sign or Neptune sign, and that kind of
Mm.
affects the world at large. But the smaller planets are the interpersonal planets, and those are the ones that are changing all the time. You have a Mercury sign, which kind of informs how you communicate and how you learn and what maybe where you like to travel. You have a Venus sign, which informs where you find beauty and pleasure and love. You have a Mars sign, which informs how you can feel anger. It informs where you have that fire, where you are drawn to like taking action right away.
Mm.
Well, and it's crazy. I've been learning about this stuff with you. I mean, alongside you, hearing the things you're telling me, and it's like, I know we just had that huge transition with Pluto over the last year, and it's like, I think everyone felt that to some degree or another. But I remember with you helping me be aware of it and watching as it was going through its fluctuations before it finally moved over. It was crazy the energetic shifts that happen within our own charts when these planets are moving. And the more you pay attention to it, the more you get these aha moments. Mercury retrograde, I'm sure most of you have heard what that is. And
Yeah, I think Starbucks has a drink for that now, don't
Oh,
they?
God.
It's pretty popular.
that's hilarious. It's probably really bitter.
Oh, God, it must be. Kind of like their coffee.
Mercury retrograde is another thing that's been done dirty by pop astrology, but
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, it really has. That's why we're making fun of it. It really is.
yeah.
But it's probably has some important significance that has been lost on most of us because we see all these memes and stuff about it.
Well, any retrograde.
When-
Oh, go ahead.
I was just going to say, you see collective shifts. That's one thing I've become fascinated watching is you go into the workplace and everyone is feeling exhausted at the exact same time. You have
they're all
people
moody
being more
or
irritable.
something, yeah. Right.
It's just weird how across the board it is. And it's like, I know I started chatting with you and I started noticing these things like, what are people like in your workplace today? And it's just, it's crazy how these shifts are felt throughout.
Well, it really reflects the Hermetic law of as above, so below. Like what's happening in the heavens also is happening internally and interpersonally and collectively.
Yeah, and we talk about that too on our path as inner. So is it outside of yourself too. These things aren't just symbolic.
Yeah.
We literally mean that. I mean, we literally mean that. If you are constantly thinking about lack, or you're ungrateful, or you're emotional or moody, your whole atmosphere around you is going to shift that way, and it's going to be that way. And you're going to affect things that you don't even, and you're not going to blame yourself because, of course, no, it's them, it's not me. Well, I'd beg to differ, but we can talk about that offline together because you're the common denominator wherever you go. So, yes, some of it is the shifting of parts of the universe and things like that, but a lot of it's you too and me and all of them.
Yeah, and that's one thing I emphasize.
We don't.
Go ahead.
No,
Okay.
Go ahead. Sorry.
I was going to say that one thing I emphasize in all my work is that you are still sovereign. You are still able to make your own decisions, and you are still going to have to repair your own wrongs. You don't get to outsource any of it to God or the universe or however you like to phrase it.
Not even on Fiverr? We can't Fiverr that?
You can outsource your plumbing needs,
That's true.
but not the inner work or the big life decisions.
Yeah. No. And thank God we can't because they would be worth nothing if we could. So, we're talking, as far as astrology goes, it's not about predicting everything. It's about learning how to navigate these different seasons and these different cycles of growth, right? So it's more like a compass and not telling us where we have to go. Like you were saying earlier, people feel stuck, but that one that says, listen, here's how rough the terrain's going to be. The weather's going to be crappy or good, and these are the lessons that you're probably going to learn along the way. Would you say that was pretty accurate?
Yeah. I always like to say that you get to set your own true north. You get to set your own North Star because we don't all have the same goals or aspirations in life. That would be boring if we did.
Right.
But yeah, you get to kind of decide your own structure and go from there. And astrology could be a way to understand how you're going to navigate the terrain or where you might, run into some extra difficulty or something.
Right. I think, Michael, in the show notes, you referred to astrology as this sacred mirror, right? Or symbolic mirror of the interconnectedness of all things, which is powerful and beautiful, especially to like a path like ours, where we honor and we seek that connection with all things.
Yeah, I mean, I think one reason astrology resonates so much with people is, I mean, you read the descriptions of even just the sun sign, you're like, I get this is me. And I know when I did my first astrology reading, getting it done, I mean, the way it highlighted my strengths and weaknesses, it gave me such a clear image of where I am now and what avenues I could pursue that were aligned with my being. One of those being, it was like, you need to work with people. You need to be involved with writing or creating content because that's where you're going to excel. And I mean, it is crazy how jumping into this podcast and doing the blog and this work I'm doing, it's such passion work that it doesn't feel like effort. And that chart told me that. So it's something that we can use as a mirror to ourselves to help us understand ourselves deeper. Because I think one place people do get stuck a lot is often we see our strengths and our weaknesses and we want to overcome our weaknesses to be better. But our weakness is a part of who we are. I mean, it doesn't mean you can't work on them, but you need to learn how to play to both your strengths and weaknesses and honor yourself for both. Because that's the best way to live in alignment.
Yeah, astrology can tell you areas where you're likely to, it can tell you kind of, hey, these are jobs that you might be really fulfilled in. You don't have to do any of those. You can still go do whatever you want. You still get to make those decisions.
But the road might be bumpy, and it might be, Well, so far we've hit two things, and I don't feel like we're doing anything evil or demonic. So let's go for the third one. This is the one where, as we talked about earlier in the show, this is the one where everybody goes, "Oh, witchcraft," and they freak out. But in secret, they go see a tarot reader. I promise you that. I've seen lots of them do it, right? Tarot, this is like the mirror of intuition, right? And I love how you were kind of through it before. You were telling us how you do it, and I think it's a very, very wise way you do it. A very, I don't know the word I'm looking for, but I don't hear many people talk about it the way that you do. So, because most people do. They ask the reader questions, and the reader tries to, bring them. And it's the same with reading runes or any other kind of divination. But you said, I don't use these for divination, which is awesome. But you're like, alone in that almost. How did you first come to?
Yeah, not always. For a very long time in my teenage and young adult years, I was aware that it existed. And as I kind of left the religion of my upbringing, I started exploring different new things. I was it was my birthday one year, and I was with a friend, and we went into, I think it was a Barnes& and Noble, and she was like, "I want to buy you a birthday present." And there weren't really any books that I was had on the top of my mind, and we ended up in the tarot card section of the Barnes& and Noble, and I picked out a Jane Austen themed tarot deck because Jane Austen is one of my great literary loves, and I was like, this is cute. And so she got it for me, and I started looking at it, and I was just like, this is really interesting. And it's fun to get into it with a theme or characters that you already know. I know the Austen characters like the back of my hand. I know all of that. And so fitting that in with the tarot archetypes made some of it click a little easier for me. And eventually I got myself some more traditional decks. That deck does some funky things that I don't love for reading, but it's pretty and nostalgic. And got myself, some more traditional decks. And just started reading for myself. And I think it was when Michael and I started dating, I started getting into it more. And we would do readings together. And it was just beautiful.
Yeah.
And I've never been let me ask questions that are apparently set in stone about the future. But it was, well, let me do I'll do a full moon spread. I'll do a full moon reading. I'll do kind of a reading with some really interesting questions. And I think I got lucky in that I began interacting with tarot readers who have a similar approach to me, where they just want to ask good questions and get deeper insights. So I got really lucky that way, in that was kind of the what was mirrored back to me as the possibilities of tarot. And as I've gotten deeper into it, I love being able to tell those stories and read for other people and help them figure out some of their own patterns, help them figure out questions they're wanting to ask, things to think about, things that are coming up for them.
When you're so intuitive when you go about it, I mean, I know I've done a couple readings with you, and it's the way you're able to just feel the energy from what you're reading with the person you're working with. It's crazy the amount of intuition. I think intuition ties into a lot of this work you do.
Mm-hmm.
But that's the one key thing when getting into tarot, especially if you get your own decks, is I always look at these as tools to get in touch with the quiet voice inside, because we get so surrounded by noise and chaos and the ego, and this is just a way to sort of cut through that noise and ask deeper questions to the soul.
Yeah. I had a thought while you were talking. Yes. I know a lot of people get hung up on like, oh, you have to memorize what the tarot card means and what its astrological correlations are and yeah, kind of what it's traditionally supposed to mean. And sometimes that can be valuable. Look at the little guidebook or memorize some keywords. I do like the astrological correlation sometimes, but generally I find it better to just see what cards come up and see what pops out to me. Like I can pull the same card for different people and different elements of the visual are going to show up for me. I'm going to say, oh, like this time the colors are really popping out to me and, what are the colors saying? Or sometimes it's going to be, there's an animal on this card that's really like, I'm really noticing that right now. Or it's even how the cards interact with each other. Are the characters in the cards facing each other? Are they having a conversation? Are they facing away? Maybe they're having a fight or a disagreement. Kind of what elements, if I do a pull with multiple cards, what thematic elements are showing up a lot. I've done pulls where every card has, in the traditional Rider-Waite-Smith deck, where every card is like bright yellow. I'm like, oh, that's telling me something. And it's different with every deck. Every deck is like a person and it kind of has its own language, its own lens through which you get the messages. Michael knows this. We have some decks that are mean and we have some decks that are far nicer.
Very blunt.
Yes, very blunt. And we have some decks that are far nicer and a little more gentle. But it's more to me about the relationships the cards are having with each other, and even the energy that I'm reading off the other person, what questions they're asking. If someone's asking me about money and I'm pulling Pentacles cards, that's really relevant and aligned. If they're asking me about, love and I'm pulling Cups cards, there's a lot of emotions happening right there.
What about the other two suits?
The swords are if someone, those come up the swords are the air element. They are all about asking questions and logic and cutting through. It's the mind. And so it doesn't always align. Sometimes someone will ask me about money and we'll get a bunch of swords cards. And that's just like, okay, you need to make better decisions about your money, actually. Or wands is the fire element. It's about action and like doing the thing, but also not burning out because it's fire, so it can burn itself out really easily.
So probably the best way to use tarot as a tool is not for something to tell you what to think or how to think. It kind of reveals what you already know, but you're not just really consciously aware of it, especially if you're not very intuitive. That's why you would go to someone like you who could help bring that out in somebody, right?
Yeah.
Like a tool for clarity or shadow work or accessing that kind of deep-seated wisdom.
I like to call tarot...
Is it a good... Sorry,
thanks. I like to call tarot the landmarks on the journey, that they can be things that help guide you as you make decisions. I often, if I'm trying to like answer a question or make a decision, I find myself asking the cards like, what am I not seeing here? What am I missing? What other alternative choices or decisions or considerations have I not thought of yet? Like, help mirror back to me that thing. Or even sometimes it can be like, show me something that can like be a sign that I'm on the right path. And if I pull a card that has a motif on it and that motif shows up, I can be like, oh yeah, I'm making the right decisions.
I've heard people say that it's a powerful tool for shadow work. It's not something I've ever used for shadow work. I just kind of did it the hard way, probably. But how does it help people with shadow work?
Yeah, it can be asking a lot of those questions. Even that question that I just gave the example of kind of what am I missing? I can be, what am I missing in my life? What parts of myself am I too afraid to look at? What questions am I too afraid to ask, actually? And then how can I approach that? Asking the cards like, okay, I've identified this thing that I'm working through, that I'm working with, how can I best approach that? Or what is going to be the outcome if I make this decision? Like, what is this possible outcome? What can happen? Or, what do I need to give myself right now? And it's usually kindness or rest are the answers for me. Okay, thanks.
Yeah.
So yeah, using it to just ask really good questions about your own shadow work and to mirror back to you those things.
Right. Isn't that crazy though? Because most people go to a reader and just ask them questions, but really you should be using the cards to learn what better questions to ask of yourself.
Yep. Yeah. One of my favorite practices is just
it's crazy how much go ahead.
One of my favorite practices is just to ask the cards, like, what do I need to know? What am I not seeing? And sometimes even just ask, like, what question do I need to ask? What comes next?
When it's like, that's always what I found fascinating with it is, it's like, as you start getting into it, as you start asking the questions and you're getting these answers, it's like, this is a good answer, but it doesn't give me the full picture. How can I word this different? Mm-hmm. Or how can I inquire deeper about this question? And it can be a spiral, I tell you what, in a beautiful way, because you're getting into depth and depth. And there's just so many layers that build upon them. Like you were saying, how the cards interact with each other. Mm-hmm. And yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes people come and they want to ask some of the more traditional questions. Are we going to break up? Am I getting that job? Where should I move? And that's part of what I do is I then have a conversation with that person and I say, well, what are you really trying to understand here? What are you trying to get at? What are you afraid of? How can you become the person you need to be so that no matter what happens, you'll be okay?
Yeah.
Do you teach people how to read tarot?
Not formally, but I can. I think eventually that'll be something that I incorporate.
I just ask him because the way you read, and I don't know if you could teach per se the way you go about it in totality, but I think if more people read tarot the way you do, it wouldn't be such a scary thing for people. I mean, the way you go about it, you develop this into a powerful tool. Really, I mean, plus I think Heather needs to learn because she bothers me about teaching her, and I don't know how to read tarot. She just assumes that I'm this all-knowing, all-powerful thing that just, was born from creation itself, and I just know I don't know how to read tarot. I don't know. I think it's cool. I love looking at the different cards and stuff, but it's not a skill I can teach because I don't do it. Right? So, yeah. When you do teach it, I'll get her to hook
Sounds
up with
good.
you.
Perfect. So I think what's really cool about the work you do is the fact that you bring these three modalities together into your own form of work you do. So I remember one of the things you started working on for your business is the concept of the mythos, if I remember how you phrased it. And yeah, can you walk us through sort of how you intertwine these three modalities into one type of assistance you give people?
Yeah. So I'm doing this in a couple of ways, kind of building a few different things. The first one is what I'm calling an astro tarot reading. And it's looking at a birth chart and giving kind of a specific astrology reading, whether that's like your sun, moon, and rising signs, or if we're going to look at a specific sign or a specific celestial body, a planet, a asteroid, things like that, and then doing a tarot reading based on that. So pulling like a card for your sun, a card for your moon, a card for your rising, and how they interact with each other and what the message is for you in this moment that your sun, moon, and rising have for you. And that's kind of the simpler one. The other thing that I'm building has not yet come to me with a name, but it's based on the myth of Ariadne, who is featured in the Greek myth of Theseus and the Minotaur. And Ariadne is the one who gives Theseus the thread through which he navigates the maze and then is able to come back out of it, the labyrinth. And I like this idea of, we all have to go into the labyrinth of our own soul to face, I don't want to call it a demon, to face the something within us that we've hidden. The shadow, I guess, is the best word for it. And using tarot and astrology and Reiki as that thread that anchors you and lets you come back out. And part of what I do is we uncover your own mythos. So in the first, it's a multi-session process, this whole thing. But the first session, we uncover the unconscious stories that you're telling yourself, the stories that you've inherited. And that happens through a quick astrology reading and tarot readings to kind of ask like what the stories are. It's about 4 cards for each story, depending on what the deck has to say, and how they interact with each other. We look at those stories, and then a Reiki session to understand where those stories are living in your body and your energy field and how they're feeling. Whether that's, maybe it lives in the back of your neck and is creating a lot of pain or headaches, or maybe it lives in your stomach and is giving you a lot of anxiety, and just kind of finding out where that story lives. And then I send you off for a few weeks. And well, we co-create some questions that you then for a couple of weeks journal on, about one question for each story, just to uncover how the stories are affecting you, how what you're telling yourself has changed decisions that you make, how it affects your interactions with other people. And then we come back, and I am still building what happens from there. But
I think it's such a fascinating
that's
concept.
A cool name, though. That's a cool name, Astro
thank
Tarot.
you. I like
that's very groovy. That is very groovy.
Yeah,
like
but the goal of the mythos journey is that you take the stories that we've uncovered, we deconstruct them, we unravel those stories, you take the bits that are actually useful to you, and we co-create a new narrative for your own life. And that can be using stories and myths that you are particularly drawn to, and that can be rewriting something new entirely for yourself.
When it's like we talk about often on here. So what?
After you're done, can we take a break?
Oh, yeah. Just one thing we like to talk about a lot on this podcast is how important the re-story is. We have so many different narratives that drive us and disempower us, and it's through finding ways to create narratives that not only empower us but resonate with us. And I think that's what makes this whole concept so powerful, is it really gets into our being and helps us create a map of meaning, for lack of a better phrase.
I think that's a good phrase. And because without meaning, we struggle to find purpose. And the lack of purpose is what that gaping hole in us sometimes is.
Yeah.
Because we reach and we fill that with, all these different things, and it just doesn't do the trick.
So now that we've dived into the 3 forms of work you're doing, I know you were going to do an example of what Astro Tarot is today with us, to show people sort of how these mechanisms works and the questions you ask, and yeah, let's dive into that.
Okay. Who wants to go first?
I'll
All
go
right,
first.
Justin. So, Justin, you have a sun in Scorpio, your moon in Cancer, and you are a Sagittarius rising. So, your sun in Scorpio, the sun sign in astrology in the birth chart is kind of the sun is the core of the solar system. The sun sign is the core of who you are. It is kind of the foundation from which the rest of your personality and life evolves. The moon, and your sun in Scorpio. Scorpio is the scorpion. It is a water sign that is very intense. It's all about transformation. As Michael likes to remind us, Scorpio actually has 3 symbols: the scorpion, the eagle, and the phoenix. So Scorpio is interested in transformation, is interested in maybe the taboo, things that are a little more occult and off the beaten path. So a sun in Scorpio means that you, at your core, are interested in transformation. You are interested in change and going deep. You aren't someone who can just be surface level with life. You have to feel and experience everything very deeply and intensely. You have your moon is in Cancer. The moon sign tells us kind of our emotional landscape. It tells us how we feel our emotions, perhaps what emotions we are most likely to feel. Like the moon goes through cycles, it can tell us what cycles we are apt to go through as well. And Cancer is the crab. Cancer is actually ruled by the moon. So your moon is in one of its most comfortable spots in your chart. And a moon in Cancer, you are deeply attuned with your emotions. It's another water sign, and water is always associated with emotions. So you're very deeply attuned to your emotions. You probably feel them very, very deeply. With your sun in Scorpio, you probably don't tell people about your emotions because you're also very private.
No. But my face really reveals too much. That's sometimes. That's why I grow a big beard so you can't see all
You like
the.
to hide, yeah.
Yeah.
Scorpio and Cancer are both signs that have a protective shell, right? You're a little protective of your emotions, of what's going on inside you. And you have a Sagittarius rising. The rising sign or ascendant is the sign that was on the horizon when you were born. It was literally like rising up over the horizon. And it is the lens through which you see and experience the world. It can often be how you physically and energetically like present to other people. So, for instance, while I am a Gemini sun, most people wouldn't know that about me when they meet me. I'm a Libra rising. That's what people see when they meet. They see harmony and beauty and kind of a very peaceful energy. So I tell people that I have a Gemini sun, and they're like, "What? You? Never." Yeah, I know. So Sagittarius is the archer. It's often seen as a centaur. Traditionally, it is the constellation of Chiron, the wounded healer in Greek mythology. And Sagittarius is the explorer, the traveler, the philosopher. It just wants to learn. Sagittarius wants to learn everything and experience everything. And again, more intensity. It's a fire sign. So it brings some of that action. So as a Sagittarius rising, you're probably seen as a philosopher, as someone who thinks very deeply and broadly about the world around you. So what I'm going to do...
Someone who gets really annoyed with small talk.
There you go.
I get in trouble all the time because people want to small talk with me, and I'm just like, ugh.
So what
I'm always small talking with
Oh,
myself, you know? I don't need that.
Yeah. So what I'm doing is I'm pulling a card for each of these, for your sun, your moon, and your rising. And we're going to see
Okay.
what we get. All right. So for your sun in Scorpio, we have the Page of Cups. Oh, those are going to have some glare. All right. The Page of Cups. Pages are kind of the novices in tarot. They are just learning about everything. And I love the Page of Cups because he's got a little fish in his cup. The Page of Cups is all about curiosity, a little playfulness, a little just like wanting to learn everything, right? Like, ooh, what's this? There's a fish in my cup. How did that get there? What's going on? It's just one of the best visuals in the tarot, I think. And cups are associated with the element of water. So we have that going on with your sun sign and this as well. Lots of emotions. But the page is really curious about what he's feeling. He's really curious about like what comes up for him. He's going to be a little funky. You know, he's got a cool hat. He's going to be a little different, approach things maybe in a different way. So what I'm getting is that right now your sun sign is inviting you to be more curious about what you're feeling and about kind of what comes up as you encounter different things in life. You're going to be invited to just get really curious and maybe a little playful about what you're feeling. For your moon in Cancer, we have the Fool. And the Fool is card 0 in the Major Arcana. And the Major Arcana traditionally tell a story of the Fool's journey. So the Fool is like the main character of the tarot. The Fool is all about adventure and curiosity. Again, more curiosity. So yeah, I think this, again, with your moon in Cancer is inviting you to get really curious about your emotions and to maybe take a leap of faith into a feeling that can feel a little scary. The Fool is like ready to jump off that cliff. Doesn't care what's underneath, isn't looking, just very faithful, or full of faith, I guess. Just very like, I'm gonna trust the universe to take me where I need to go. I'm carrying nothing because I don't need anything. So yeah, getting this energy of just learning to like get curious and then trust your emotions. And then for your Sagittarius rising, we have the Page of Wands. So 2 pages and the Fool. Lots of youthful, new beginning, novice-like energy. And the Page of Wands is curious in a less playful way than the Page of Cups. The Page of Wands is curious in an intense, like, let me study this, every detail of this sort of way. Let me really get to know this thing because I want to master it. And wands are the fire element. They are all about taking action usually. The Page of Wands isn't necessarily taking action, but is studying in order to take action, right? He's really getting to know what he has so that he can take a next step with it. So I'm getting the sense that you're learning a lot right now, especially with all this emotional digging. You're probably doing a lot of learning about yourself and what you're working with in life in preparation for taking a new step and becoming a new version of yourself, because you're always transforming and growing.
It's very interesting because we have 9 levels through the path of Ashla. And of course the first level is the beginner, the awakened one who's just starting to discover things. And there is a level beyond mastery on our path through Ashla, and that is to become the eternal student. We go full circle from awakening to awakening, right? Because it's a never-ending thing. We must have that curiosity. We must have that, or else, what are you mastering? Because we really can't master anything. Master is more of a title, right? And that's very on point.
I'm glad to hear that.
And it resonates with the path that we walk and the path that we teach and the path that we are rediscovering every day.
I had the exact same thought when she was doing your reading. I'm like, and that top level above master, becoming the student again,
Right? Yeah. Instead of doing this, you start doing this again, right? Rediscovering. And that's why it's important to teach, because as I'm teaching you and others, I'm rediscovering the stuff that you're learning too. But you can't do that without curiosity. You can't do that without a lot of humility. Although the humility isn't a hard part for me. That part comes pretty natural for me, because the more people I teach, the more helpers I have to learn. Right? That's cool. It's really cool. I have a daughter that's a Sagittarius, and she's very much like that. My brother's a Cancer. I know he'll probably listen to this, but he's kind of emotional. I love him for that. He loves very hard at his own peril sometimes. Yeah. It's funny because when people read their horoscopes every day in the paper, that's all they're reading. They don't realize that there's so many different, like many of us, well, all of us have many different influences from different signs. I had this theory about astrology, and I'm gonna share it with you. I always ask this of astrologers. This is just a theory I have, but it's interesting to me that when we're conceived, tend to take on, it seems like we take on the astrological traits of our mother and father in part 2 in some way. Not so much by the chart, but if you look at this from a deeper level, they say that even from the perspective of psychology, sometimes the attitude and emotional states of the mother and father when they're conceiving a baby sometimes infuses into that, right? So I kind of took that a little further, and I like to make theories, and Michael's heard 1,000 of them, and sometimes they're interesting, sometimes they're like, no, let's just not travel down that road anymore. But it seems to me that people, and I've asked probably 12 people this, just asking them, okay, what sign is your mom? What sign is your dad? Okay, and I've only done this with people I know really well, so I can see if they kind of have those traits, and it's almost like 25% of their being almost matches parts of their parents' signs too. I don't know.
It's funny you say that.
I don't know how I could ever prove that.
My father and I have the same sun sign, and my mother's sun sign is my moon sign.
Oh wow! I wonder how often that happens. Because I have 2 kids that are Leos. They're born exactly the same day, just 10 years apart. My wife and I are both Scorpios. And I have 2 Leos and a Sagittarius. And, yeah. I don't know. I don't know why I always thought about that, because it's like, if our parentage influences us literally at the genetic level, and with those emotional energies being infused in there too, why not the influence from the universe?
That's really interesting.
You might be.
I just don't know how I'd ever articulate that. I don't know how to. I always get stuck in how I would discuss, like how I would show that, through charts and stuff like that. But I haven't quite figured that part out yet. But it just seems to me that the people I know, like for example, my mother's a Leo, my father's an Aries, and although and their sun signs, I don't know what their other stuff is, but I can lose my crap every once in a while over the dumbest things. I can have that fire and that brimstone, and want to rain it down upon earth onto my enemies, which isn't a normal thing for me, because normally well, of course I teach love and I teach connection and truth and all this stuff, which is the opposite of Aries raining down fire and brimstone from the heavens onto people. Generally not the way to go, right? But I don't all, Leos tend to be a little more flashy and showy and see what I'm doing. And, my daughter's very much like that. She's a performer, especially when she's up against her sisters. They're always competing, which may be more of a psychological thing versus a astrological thing. I don't know. I'm sorry, I took us off on a tangent here, but I just don't know how I'd ever show that. So someday I'm going to figure it out, and then I'm going to prove myself right or wrong, I guess.
It is a curious tangent, though. I look at my dad and my mom. My mom's a Capricorn, my dad's a Sagittarius, and as much as I don't have any Sag in my placements, like, I very much have his energy and curiosity with learning new things and constantly chasing knowledge. So there might be some grounds on that. I don't know how you would go about it either, but fascinating tangent.
Yeah.
Like you, Allison, I dabble in too many things, and I get lost in them sometimes.
Yep, it's a blessing and a curse.
Because I look at something and I go, oh no, I don't care about this. This is the interesting part to me. I don't care about that. The other stuff is for someone else. But I want this thing. I want to grab this thing, and but sometimes I grab it and I can't really explain it to anybody. I'm like, look what I got. They're like, I don't see anything, but it's cool. Look at it.
Yeah. One of my kind of favorite astrologers, Britton LaRue, teaches that we have all 12 signs in us, that they're all archetypes that are within us. Whether or not you have placements in a sign, it still affects you to some degree. And I love that.
Right.
Some are just more prominent for us than others. All right. Michael,
My turn?
Do you want a reading? All
Yes.
right. So, Michael, you have your sun in Scorpio. So very similar to Justin, you are interested in transformation. And this is probably one reason you two get along so well, because at your core, you're both interested in similar things. Transformation, intensity, deep conversations, things that maybe other people aren't interested in talking about or don't want to face. Your moon is in Aquarius and you have a Capricorn rising. So your Aquarius is the water bearer. But it's an air sign, which you'd think wouldn't make sense, but it does. And Aquarius is a sign that it's kind of the humanitarian. It's interested in relationships with other people. It's interested in impacting the world in a big way. It's the second to last sign, and once you get into kind of the second half of the zodiac, these are all signs that are very interested in our relationships with other people. The first half of the zodiac is more interested in self-development, and the second half is kind of collective development. So Aquarius is interested in, they will interact with other people. So your moon in Aquarius, you sometimes don't know what you're feeling because you're so impacted by the other people around you, because you're so in tune with what they're feeling. You're also probably not very comfortable with what we typically call negative emotions. And I could say a lot of this because I know you.
Yeah, you're calling us out.
But you're really good at sitting with other people when they're in those emotions. Like when it's you sitting with those emotions, you're not so comfortable, but when it's someone else dealing with it, you're better at it. For some reason, it's easier for you to face when it's not in your body. And you have a Capricorn rising. So Capricorn is the sea goat, but it's an earth sign. So you come across very grounded. Capricorn is what is often referred to as like the CEO, right? Capricorn is going to set goals and meet those goals on time, maybe ahead of time, and just like get stuff done. And
he definitely grounds this show. Yeah. He does. He grounds
so like
us.
Right away you have a very grounding energy, right? You have a very sort of practical energy. Can be very good at, Capricorn is also very interested in social interactions, but more in like winning social interactions, in
a little bit
knowing everyone and kind of being just really good at knowing everyone. Often sometimes really good at like discipline, self-control, I'm going to meet my goals no matter what. So yeah, the lens through which you see the world is very grounded and stable and practical, if that makes sense.
Yeah, no, I think that totally fits.
And of course, these are all nuanced by your other stuff, right? So let's see what cards come. God, they're jumping out at me. Okay, so for your
Oh, exciting.
Sun in Scorpio, we have the Two of Pentacles, which is a very fun card. So pentacles are the earth element. They are often about our physical reality. So they can literally be about money. It can be about your home, your job, your body sometimes. And the Two of Pentacles, we have this figure who is balancing these two coins. We also have two ships in the distance that are kind of being rocked around by the ocean. And this guy's only standing on one foot because we got to make life more difficult for ourselves sometimes. So your Sun in Scorpio right now is telling you that you're balancing a lot of things. You probably have a really busy schedule. I don't even need to say probably. You're really busy. You're balancing a lot of things right now. But I also find this card to be one that's really playful because this guy's kind of having fun with it, right? He's wearing another funky hat and is dancing and just ignoring the chaos behind him. He is focusing on what he needs to focus on, right? It is focusing on all the things that you're doing. Don't pay attention to chaos that's happening behind you, around you, that doesn't have anything to do with you.
There's an axiom for that, Michael.
For your Moon in Aquarius, we have the King of Swords. And swords are the air element. Swords are all about our mind and what's going on in our mind. What we're thinking, what we're worrying about. And the King of Swords is very logical. He is very good at kind of cutting through the crap. I'm like, this is what we're seeing, this is what we're doing. I like to see, especially the King and Queen of Swords, they have like the higher perspective on everything, right? They can see the whole landscape beneath them. They can see everything. So you're being asked not to let your emotions cloud over your decision making. You're being asked to make probably some more logical decisions about things. Whether or not your heart's in it, you got to see the bigger picture and see what is the best decision for your life right now.
I feel called out.
This deck can be very blunt.
She is.
Particularly.
Shots are
when
fired.
I do readings,
Shots are
being
fired.
when I do readings for Michael, they get really blunt. And that's just because I know him so well. And then your Capricorn rising,
you're nailing
we have
it, though.
the Three of Swords. And again, swords are air, the mind, and the Three of Swords is particularly telling you, and I'm seeing this in conjunction with the King of Swords, that you're going to have to make some decisions that are probably going to hurt emotionally. That you're going to have to cut things out of your life that affect your balance, that affect all the things you're juggling, that you're going to have to face some grief that you have been avoiding. And Capricorn is sitting in this picture to give you that kind of structure and discipline to be able to do that.
There's work to be done.
There's always work to be done.
But the beautiful thing about grief and the beautiful thing about rain is they do always pass.
Just got to feel it to heal it.
Exactly. And so that is what an Astro Tarot reading can look like. We can look at different things in a chart. It doesn't have to be the sun, moon, rising. It can be specific things and how. I didn't even look at the interactions, the aspects of your sun, moon, and risings in your charts, because that's a whole other level. But that's what it looks like.
So if anyone wants to get a tarot reading by you, where would they go?
You can look me up on Instagram. My handle is Unstitched Muse. And from there I have links to my website and my booking pages and everything. And you can also message me on Instagram and find me.
Perfect. And we'll have the links in the show notes below.
Yeah.
What all are your offerings? What all can people come to you to have done? We've gone over all these practices you do. Well, and so what do you offer?
Yeah, so right now I have offerings for kind of basic tarot readings, or not basic tarot readings, but just tarot readings. And then offerings for just Reiki sessions. Now, often starting with a Reiki session, we'll start with a tarot reading to kind of get a sense of where you are, what questions you're asking, what you're looking at. So right now I have those separate. I'm going to soon put out a booking page for the Astro Tarot readings to begin. And hopefully in the next couple months, my Mythos offering will be ready to go, and that'll be in the same places.
Awesome.
Yeah, you have to come back. You have to come back and
Yeah,
let you launch that.
definitely.
And, I mean, we could do a whole show about that.
Yeah. Yeah, I was a guinea pig when she first came up with the concept, and the insights were so deep. I still reflect on the stories and everything. I'm just like, when I'm going through life, it's like, all right, where am I looking for this struggle that I keep looking for? And it's like, yep, right there, right there.
It very much reminds me of human design, how it uses so many different things to really map a person out and get to the. I know it's a little different, but kind of that same concept. And I think those modalities are the best ones because they really get to the heart of it.
Yeah, I remember when I discovered tarot, when I started getting into it, was during one of the darkest periods of my life, and it was just like, it was so grounding to get a little bit of direction while I'm navigating a chaos that I didn't even quite understand. And I mean, to this day, I mean, we do couple readings at least once a month where we sit down, light some candles, and just do a pull for the new moon. What are we working on? What are we letting go of?
Yeah.
And yeah.
Yeah, and weekly-ish, depending on how I'm feeling, I do publish a Astro Tarot newsletter on Substack called The Unstitched Muse, where I often do full moon readings, new moon readings, and then kind of readings based on what's happening in the skies or whatever I'm feeling like, depending. I published one today. Pluto stationed direct today, so ended its retrograde, and Venus entered Libra today, so I did a reading for those transits.
Definitely worth checking out. Well, do you guys have any other questions or food for thought you want to give the audience before we close this out?
I do. Look, at the end of the day, Reiki, astrology, tarot, these aren't things that are rivals to each other. You know, they are complementary things that flow back to the same source. And everything a mystic does, whether you're one of those that are in robes and chanting like we talked about in the ritual show, or just regular everyday people just trying to pay bills and stuff, all this stuff flows and it can be useful to you. We are energetic beings. We say this all the time. We are literally woven into that living fabric of creation. Every single one of us. Everything about us. Everything around us is energy. So these tools, they speak to us and they speak to source, but their language may be a little different, right? Reiki goes through the body. Astrology, kind of maps out the cosmos and what we're weaved into. Tarot just kind of through archetype and symbol, which is something that Michael and I talk about all the time. We talk about archetypes all the time. These all in other words, all these roads lead to the same kind of thing and have the same kind of purpose. And when you use these tools with integrity, they don't just predict or they don't just pacify you, they empower you. They invite you to heal and to grow and to see these patterns that are clearly taking shape in your life, whether you're hiding from them or not, right? So, and I'll just say this, the true mystic doesn't cling to just one thing, but learns and listens through several different modalities. So my call to action today is I want to invite everyone to ask themselves which one of these tools we talked about today or another tool that you use resonates most deeply with you in this moment. So, and don't be afraid to dabble and reach out to professionals like Allyson to learn about these things. You can learn a lot in books and you can learn a lot from the internet, but there is nothing that replaces that one-on-one contact with somebody who's really good user of these tools. So that's what I want to leave everybody with today.
Oh, beautifully said. Thank you so much for joining us today, Allyson. And if you have any interest in diving into this, please reach out to her because the work she does is amazing. So thank you so much for joining us today. If this resonated with you or you think it'd resonate with someone you know, please like, comment, share, subscribe. We appreciate all your support. With love and gratitude, Ad Lucium.
Ad Lucium.